One of the things that did pass out of committee was a serious hampering or infringing of our right to self-government. We are privileged in Oklahoma as citizens to be able to make law ourselves, or at least propose law ourselves. We are allowed to petition. And through that petition process, we can make a statute, a law, or change a law. To do that, all we need to do is gather the signatures of 8% of all the registered voters statewide. And once we have those signatures, we can then propose a new law. Now, if we want to change our state constitution, we can also do that, and we would need to gather 15% of all the registered voters' signatures, and then we can put something on the ballot for the people to vote to change the Constitution. Well, the folks down at the legislature would like to make it significantly harder for us to do that. So it is Representative Enns proposed House Bill 1603, and what this would do is it would keep the percentages the same, 8 and 15, but now instead of just getting those signatures from anywhere in the state, they would have to come from each and every individual county. So imagine you needed to get 150,000 signatures to suggest changing a law, but you had to go get that 8% from all 77 counties. So this is clearly an effort to make it much harder to pass something like State Question 640, which has protected us from literally billions of dollars over the last 20 years, 30 years, in proposed taxes that were defeated because of that protection that the people put into law. What if the architects of 640 had to go all the way down to Wagner County and over here to Cherokee County and go get the right number of signatures in every county? Then all the Supreme Court would need is to find one county where you came up one signature short and they could throw the whole thing out. So it's an absolute disaster. Well, that particular measure did pass out of committee this last week, so it's going to go to the House floor. Here's who passed it in the House committee. Of course, Enns was the author. Also voting for that was John Eccles, Josh Cockcroft, Elise Hall, Mike Osborne, Taylor, who's a freshman, Kevin West out of Moore. All those guys voted for it. And they're all establishment Republicans. It was only the Democrats that voted against it. So again, we see over and over again that the party doesn't tell us what's right and wrong. Whoever is in power tends to be wrong because they're in power and it corrupts them. So another thing I wanted to bring to your attention this week is that constitutional carry is in committee this afternoon. Probably be heard somewhere after 1:45. So if you want to jet from here and go to the Capitol and get in that committee room and see how those committee members vote on constitutional carry, there are a lot of people headed that way. That's this afternoon. Okay, next. Yes, sir. Go ahead. 1 o'clock. Well, you know how these things go. They can't start till they have a quorum, and then they have to blow their nose, pick their nose, and have announcements. You know, we'll have time when we'll end here at 1, and we'll get down there. Right. House Bill 1603, that's now cleared to go to the House floor, so we need to ask our representatives to vote no on that. Hey, any other important announcements or bills that you would like to mention for the good of the order at this point? Pastor Kern? Okay, yeah, let me mention that. So Dan Fisher is having a massive rally starting Friday night at 6 p.m. That's at Christian Heritage Academy in Del City. It's going to go from 6 to 9:30. He's got national speakers from around the country, experts in state sovereignty and things of that coming, and it will all lead up to him revealing his plan for establishing state sovereignty. That rally continues on Saturday morning beginning at 9 o'clock and goes throughout the day with a lunch break. And all those speakers, it's going to be kind of a conference-style rally. If you've ever been to Clouds Over America, Reclaiming America for Christ, any of these sort of educational type things, he's got, again, experts on state sovereignty, the law, what the law should be, what a representative republic is, and it will be all of the proof and evidence and explanation and education for understanding why Dan is so much different than the other candidates. Paul. The auditorium of Christian Heritage Academy in Del City. Same location. Okay, our speaker here next week is Catherine Connolly with, talking about the Strong Cities Network. That's here next week. So here we are. It's only 12 minutes after the hour. Enough bloviating. It's time to get on with the program. We have with us today a candidate for the governor of Oklahoma, a businessman from the area of Tulsa. His name is Kevin Stitt. We're going to have him come here. We're going to give him as much time as he wants to tell us about himself and his platform, why he's running. Then after that, I have another microphone and I will start running around. We will ask about 8 or 9 of our standard questions that we ask all the candidates so that you know on education and the budget and taxes and all those big issues, basically where he stands. And then I will run around as fast as I can until 1 o'clock and let you ask questions. Please make your questions short and to the point so we can get a lot of questions in, because I will be cutting it off at 1 o'clock. Mr. Stitt has other meetings to go to and all of that. So I think, is there anything else? So at this time, let's have the man with the plan, the man of the hour, our guest of honor, Kevin Stitt. Come on up.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Russell and Cindy, great to see you guys. Zach, how you doing, buddy? Good. We've got some, my cousins are here, okay, and their other son, they've got 4 boys, their other son was the starting 184-pounder for Oklahoma State Wrestling. I'm a huge college wrestling fan. I don't know if anybody followed it. Nolan Boyd was 2-time All-American right here from Deer Creek. That's a big deal, right? Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna bring him on staff. So, well, hey, it's so great to be with you today. I'll just kind of tell you my story. I'm not a politician, so luckily my strategist is not here to throw something at me because I'll probably mess up and say something I'm not supposed to. But really looking forward to hearing from you and learning the issues. As I travel the state and meet everybody, it's so fun for me to go to all 77 counties. And we actually just finished that tour in January and traveled the whole state. Yesterday we were in Altus and we were in Lawton. I got a chance to speak to the AP government class at Lawton High School, then tour the Altus Air Force Base yesterday. So it's been such a thrill for me to visit all the state and visit all the assets of our great state. And so I grew up in Norman, and my dad was a pastor there at Riverside Church. So we were there for 30 years. It's a non-denominational Bible church there in Norman. And then I went to school in Stillwater. So I didn't want to go to school in the same hometown I grew up in, so I went to OSU. I either get a go poke there or I get a, I'm sorry, you couldn't get into OU. There we go. It's so funny. I just came from Norman. We had a meeting down there, and they're all making fun of me because I went to OSU. And but anyway, it's great rivalry. I got an accounting degree from OSU, and then kind of a unique part about my story, the way I paid my way through college was I sold books with the Southwestern Company. And it is a door-to-door sales job, great sales training. I came back after my first year, recruited all of my college buddies, all my buddies from OU. By the time I graduated from college, I had 50 college kids working for me. So it was my first experience of leading a sales organization. I found out that I loved working with my friends. I was really entrepreneurial, wanted to have my own business. So then I moved to Tulsa, met my wife, Sarah. We've been married now for 20 years in May, and we have 6 children. Yes, it is a big family, yeah. From 17 down to 3 boys and 3 girls. And so my wife, she always wants me to remind everybody, be praying for her during this whole campaign, not just me. She's got the tough job, so I'll make sure I tell her tonight I reminded everybody. Well, then I got into the mortgage business shortly after college. I started my company, Gateway Mortgage Group, with $1,000 in a computer. And today, now we have over 1,100 employees. We have offices all over the country. We do business in 40 states, have about 165 offices. We have a division that buys loans from banks and credit unions. If you've ever had your home loan sold, that's where we come in and we buy home loans. And then you're a customer for life with us. We don't sell any of our loans off. We actually service everything right out of Tulsa. So that's just been my whole world the last 18 years. It's been all about hiring people smarter than me and putting them in the right positions and leading, setting the vision and the strategy. So why am I running for governor? So last year, I started thinking about this governor's race. It kept coming up. I kept thinking about it. And ultimately, as a man of faith, I just couldn't shake the feeling that I was supposed to get involved and do something. And I'll tell you this, I don't know if anybody's ran for office in here, but it was an agonizing decision, all right? Everything is right up here on your head, right? And I was just never really focused on politics. I'd been raising my family, growing my business, and I was more of an introvert, and I did not want to do this. And so I was praying. I was like, Lord, I want the fleece wet. I want it dry. I want it wet again. I want a burning bush experience. I didn't get any of that. I just got that feeling like we get sometimes that we're supposed to get involved and do something. And so I go for it. But practically speaking, I travel. I go down to Texas all the time. We've got 38 offices in Texas. I go to Tennessee and Arkansas and Colorado, and I visit our locations all over the country. And I just see all this momentum coming out of these other states, and the job creation, the positivity, the growth all around us. And then I come back to Oklahoma, the state that I love, that I'm raising my family and growing my business, and I just feel like we're down in the dumps a little bit. We had a negative 3% growth versus all the states around us growing tremendously. We're going to 4-day school weeks trying to save money. We have this budget nightmare. And then I look at who's running for governor, and it just looks like more of the same, just the career politicians running for their next election. I truly believe we're going to be in the same situation 8 years from now if we keep electing the same folks. And that's why I'm doing it, because I want to focus on the next generation, not the next election. And I think that's what our forefathers wanted us to do. They wanted us to temporarily leave our farmer business and go serve our state. And that's my idea of how it should work. I don't think they ever envisioned career politicians. And so I think it's the governor's job, just like it's the leader of the company's job, to set the vision, to put the goals in place, to hire the right people and put the plan in place to go hit those goals. And so at our company, we have a vision to be a top 10 lender. We're about number 50 in the country right now. We originate about $6 billion in home loans. We're about number 55 as far as servicing size. We service about over $15 billion. But we have a goal to be a top 10 lender. We want to be top 10 in sales, top 10 in servicing, top 10 in employee benefits. We want to be top 10 in everything we do. And I've got the same vision for our state. I think we can be a top 10 state. I tell people we can be top 10 in growth, top 10 in education, and top 10 in infrastructure. And when you want to be top 10 and you've got a big vision, you know you've got to do things differently that got us to 48th and 49th. We can't keep doing the same things we've always done and expect different results. So I've got 5 pillars that I run my company with, and I think about leading the state the same way. You need a growth plan, education, health, infrastructure, and efficiencies. Those 5 things never change. You always need a growth plan. When you lead, we're going to determine what are the 5 things we're going to do to move our state forward in growth and under education, under health. And I think running state government is more like running a business than anything. We spend $22 billion in our state. We have 120 different state agencies. And we're hiring people who've never hired anybody, set strategy, led, managed a budget. And we're asking them to run it, and we wonder why things are like this. I run a company, and we've got 25 different cost centers. We don't have any different issues in our state that any of the other states around us don't have, okay? And so I want to be a top 10 state, and I think we can. And all the guys I'm running against are all nice folks, but I just don't think that the same people that got us in this mess are going to get us out of it. I think we need a fresh approach. I think we need a business approach to lead our state. That's why I want to be your next governor. So let me, with that, just be quiet. I know you guys have a lot of questions for me, and so I want to open it up and learn from you.
All right, so at this point, everybody, put your listening ears on. Take notes if you're taking notes. I only have 9 questions. We've asked these questions of Gary Richardson, Gary Jones, everybody who comes in. So we don't have a screen today, but you can follow along on these. These are short answers, sort of I would do this, I wouldn't do that kind of thing. And I'm going to read them so the audience knows what we're going through. And then after that, you guys can follow up and go into more detail. So our first question is regarding vaccination, and this is, what would you do as governor? I would never mandate vaccines. I would mandate vaccines only for government school participation, or I would mandate vaccines when there's a compelling state interest or public health emergency. Just do a short answer.
So first off, before we get started, I don't have all the answers, and we have a lot of groups, different industries, that will send me forms, okay? And they'll say, Kevin, fill this out and we'll support you. and check these boxes. And I say, no, I'm not going to do it. If you want to check the box politician, there's 5 other guys to choose from. If you want a leader, I don't know what's going to hit our state 5 years from now. So I'll answer as many questions as I can, but I don't just kind of go through and check the box, because I've got to be able to make the right decision whenever I get there. So under vaccines, I believe in choice, and we've got 6 children, and we don't vaccinate. We don't do vaccinations on all of our children, so we definitely pick and choose which ones we're going to do. And it's got to be up to the parents. We can never mandate that. I think there's a legislation right now that are trying to mandate that go to public schools. That's absolutely wrong. My wife was homeschooled. I went to public schools. Our kids go to a Christian school, and that's back to a parent's choice.
So your answer on this would be you would veto legislation that would mandate it.
Yeah, that's correct. I am for.
Great. All right, let's go to the next one. What do you intend to do about any EPA federal mandates which our coal industry farmers or ranchers say needlessly harm their businesses?
I don't know the specifics on the coal industry, but I believe that the states, I believe that the federal government should be there to protect our rights of life, liberty, and personal property. Everything else, for legal citizens, everything else should belong to the states. So I think everything, thank you. I think, the states, the federal government shouldn't tell us what to do, and I love every single industry. So specifically, I don't know, I think you had something about the coal industry there, so I didn't follow exactly what you're talking about.
I was just giving some different examples. If the EPA has a mandate that's going to hurt a farmer or rancher, what would your strategic plan be as chief executive to protect us from the EPA?
I mean, I don't know if I can answer that. Specifically, if the EPA does what to our farmers? Can you kind of give me some specifics?
Well, what if they come in and say you're not allowed to dam up your creek so you can water your cattle, and now in the summer your land goes dry and you can't water your cattle?
Yeah.
There's tons of examples.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fair enough if you hadn't thought about this. I mean, that's because you're just as a candidate right now, so we can just blow past it if you want to. I'm just trying to get the lay of the land on some different basic issues.
Yeah, obviously the federal government and the EPA, I love what Scott's Pruitt doing, trying to dismantle some of that stuff. And so you've let these agency heads, especially at the federal government, kind of go wild, writing laws. And Congress has, advocated their own responsibilities to the agency heads, which is totally wrong. So it needs to be a bottom-up approach from the states to the federal government, not the federal government out to the states.
Right. So you'll need to lead on that if you get elected.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to question number 3. Our good friend Senator Joseph Silk, down from the southeast part of the state, has filed the Abolition of Abortion in Oklahoma Act. This would criminalize all elective abortion. So it's kind of a 3-part question. First of all, would you endorse and champion this bill during your campaign? Then if you were governor, would you sign it? And then would you enforce it regardless of any court stays?
Well, first off, I am the most pro-life person in this race. I have 6 children. All right? Nobody else can say that. And I believe that life begins at conception, and I think that I will do whatever I can as governor to protect life. I'll do everything I can. We are the number 3 state as far as pro-life state. I'd like to get us back to number 1. There's 2 states that are better than us at that, limiting that. And I'm frustrated that Planned Parenthood has expanded in our state over the last 8 years. And I will make sure that state dollars don't go to fund that kind of stuff. And as far as what else I can do, I'm going to do whatever I can to protect life. I don't know specifically what we can do because it's a federal issue. We need to get on our knees and we need to pray as a nation and overturn that stuff. And as your governor, I'll be as pro-life as anything to try to protect life here.
So you see it as a federal issue and we can't really do anything except pray about it?
I will do everything I can as a governor to protect life, and whatever bills hit my desk to protect life, I will do it.
So would you support this bill that criminalizes all elective abortion? That was the question.
I haven't read that bill.
Well, it just says that it's murder and it would prosecute people who did it.
If something hits my desk that I can sign that's pro-life, that is protecting life in our state, I'll sign it.
Well, this is not pro-life. This criminalizes it.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't read that.
All right.
Thank you.
It's pretty simple. Okay, next question. Would you approve an increased tax on tobacco, and would you approve a new tax on services? I mean, they're two different taxes, but we just want to know your opinion on each of those.
Ask me the question again.
Okay, would you approve an increased tax on tobacco? So if the legislature sends you the $1.50 a pack, would you sign that?
I find it odd that Dan Fisher's campaign manager is drilling me with these questions. Can we open it up to the audience?
If his campaign manager were here, I don't know what he would say about that. So would you approve a tax increase on tobacco?
Would I approve a tax increase on tobacco? You know, I don't think we should focus on new taxes right now, because when I look at the state, we spend $22 billion in our state. I look at everything and I call it market. What do the other states around Oklahoma do? And we are already spending as much per citizen as other states around us. We actually spend $1,500 more in Oklahoma per citizen than they do in Texas. And so it's not a revenue issue to me. We have 120 different state agencies, so I'm not about new tax revenues at this point. In business, we look at revenue and we look at expenses. But if I've got 25 different cost centers at my company, and there's no possible way that I'm going to give these departments more money when they're run the way our state government is ran. So I've got to first get the right people in charge, put the metrics in place that run the different departments efficiently and effectively. We have got, as conservative Republicans, I know we've got to deliver services to our citizens. I just want to do it effectively, efficiently, better than all the states around us. Let me tell you how I think about stuff. So I think I want to be top 10 in infrastructure. And I think it's very important that that's a core function of government, that we have the best, the state government, that we have the best roads and bridges in our state. Okay, so I got a hold of the Association of General Contractors, and I said, I want to talk to a bridge company that builds in Oklahoma and that builds in the 6-state footprint around Oklahoma. So they got me on the phone with Manhattan Construction. So I'm on the phone with these guys that build bridges. First off, they are shocked that a governor candidate is trying to understand how we build bridges in Oklahoma. They're like, man, the other governor candidates would only be asking for talking points. And I said, well, I need to learn and understand how it's done here, right, so we can improve it. Why are we 48 in our roads and bridges? So they said, well, here's the deal, Kevin. The bridges we're building in Texas are costing 30% less than the ones that we build in Oklahoma. And I'm like, why is that? And they said, well, engineering in Texas allows us to do 4 inches of precast concrete and deliver it on site, then pour 4 inches, where Oklahoma, we have to do all 8 inches on site. And that's more costly, it's more costly, more time consuming. So the point is, only a business person challenges the status quo, digs in, how can we be more efficient with technology? What can we do to get better at the roads and bridges? Because I think that's what we need here to make sure that we're growing like we need to in a state.
So if I could redirect for a moment, those construction workers working on the highways, when they go to buy a pack of cigarettes, would you ever approve a $1.50 increase per pack? Or only under the right circumstances? Like if Texas had a $2 per pack new tax, would that justify us doing a $1.50?
So let me redirect again. So I look at market.
So only under certain circumstances you might in the future, but not now.
I'm not. So I look at market, and I want to make sure that we don't have any tax in our state over another state. So
right.
I would need to first look to find out if Texas's tax on their tobacco is more than ours, and if Arkansas and Kansas. So that's kind of my first thing to look at it. To
so
make
if
sure
theirs was higher, you wouldn't mind raising ours as long as it's less than.
Yeah, if we need revenue, and I looked at other states, yes, that's fine.
Okay, that's what we're getting at. And then Senator Bice is a big fan of creating new taxes on services because we don't do that in our state. What's your position on service taxes? Would you approve those if the legislature passed them?
Would I approve service taxes if the legislature?
Right.
You know, the problem with you saying the legislature, it has to come, leadership comes from the governor's level. So nothing would be passed that hit my desk that I wouldn't have a voice in. The way you have to lead, and I've called all 101 House members, I've called all 48 senators, and I ask every one of them, how could I do a better job if I get there? And here's what they tell me. They say, Kevin, have a plan and meet with us. Come hang out with us on the 4th floor. We never get to see the governor. We don't know what the plan is until the State of the State address. In business, I have to meet with my team every single week. And back to the 5 pillars, we have to work together. We have to know, here's the 5 things we're going to do under growth, under education, under health, under infrastructure. So nothing would be, it's unfair to say, would I sign something hit my desk? If it hit my desk, it's because I've led, and it's part of the plan to move our state forward.
So you would not lead on a service tax?
No.
Great. All right, next one. Would you champion, yeah, y'all can give it up for that. Would you champion and approve connecting education dollars to students rather than to school districts so that the funds follow the students wherever parents choose to school them?
You know, I love choice in the school system, and I've been touring, you know, all over the state, rural districts and rural schools and Santa Fe, what is it called? Santa Fe South Charter School. Yeah, so I toured the charter schools. So I'm all about charter schools and more choice in the education system. I looked at what Indiana did, and Indiana with their school choice, you know, the problem is you want to be very careful that we don't, you know, so what Indiana did is if you're I think they said 5 times the poverty rate. So anybody making under $60,000 a year could have like a voucher to go to different schools. And so I think I would look at something like that. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I certainly am for charter schools. I think the parents need to choose whether they like homeschooling or just more choice in education is what I want to do. Because I meet with superintendents from rural areas, urban areas, all over the state, and I ask them, you know, what is the problem? How can we do a better job? Well, they all just say, give me more money. Give me more money. And I just say, you know, if we're in business and our business failed, I can't just go back to the investors and say, give me more money unless I give you a new plan, right? So that's the whole deal. I don't have any new plans from the education system. And I look at market, what other states are doing. We're top 6 in administration spend right now. We're certainly not top 6 in outcomes. We spend $13,400 a student. That's about what other states spend. We're not doing a good job of getting into the classroom, getting into the teachers. I do think we need to be competitive. And I look at market, paying teachers, market, what they pay in Texas and Kansas and Arkansas. If I hired underwriters at my company and I didn't pay them market, I'm not going to get the best and brightest. I'm going to have high delinquency. Eventually I go out of business. So you got to pay market, but we're not doing a good job. We're wasting a lot of money at the administration level that needs to be addressed.
Excellent. So next question. Would you approve liquidation of Oklahoma's public television and radio stations?
Man, these questions, I've been traveling and doing this for the last 8 months. I've never even seen these questions. Would you approve the liquidation of Oklahoma's public television? Have no idea what that means. What's it mean? So OETA is a state-sponsored, funded institution? Yeah, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't. I would want to make sure that they're not pitching their book at Oklahoma. And so I don't want to, like, for example, there's 72 lobbyists that our state agencies are hiring, third-party lobbyists, that then turn around to come lobby the legislature for more money. I would do away with that. So any kind of foolish spending. All right. And if this public deal you're talking about, which I haven't dug into that, if that's doing something that's lobbying and it's got a certain agenda,
well,
that's not
right.
The
state owns a radio station and multiple TV stations.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the next question. This is a big one. This is on the gross production tax for oil wells. This rankers a lot of people. It's complex. So the question is, it's kind of a 3-part question. What tax rate do you favor on the gross production of lateral wells? Then what rate do you want to see on vertical wells? And do you favor or oppose a reduced rate for new wells compared to existing wells?
You know, again, I look at market, okay, and I speak to the oil industry. I've spoken to the wind energy and all these different industries. They all are coming out of the woodworks now that my profile is coming up and wanting me to come speak to them. And I go in and I talk to these industries. And I tell them this. I said, here's the deal, guys. And I know the other candidates that will come in here, and they're going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. They'll never change your incentive. Okay, but remember, they're doing that to every other industry that they're going to talk to. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I will never put you at a competitive disadvantage in market, okay, and making sure you can compete in other states. That's what business people want. We just want to know what the rules are, and we want a level playing field. I'm in the mortgage business. So today, if interest rates are, let's say, 4.5%, to get Zach's loan, I need to be at 4.5% to earn his business, right? If I'm at 5.5%, I can't get his business. But I certainly don't need to give him a 3.5% rate to get his business either, right? So I'm not going to be the governor for just this industry or just this industry. I'm going to be the governor for all 4 million Oklahomans and always thinking about what's right for the whole team. So the way I think about the revenue side is I would make sure that every one of those industries is competitive with the states around them. And so it's a complicated question whether what they charge in Texas for the GPT and what they charge there. I would never move an incentive over another state around us. But can it go up? Yeah, if we looked at the other states and made sure that it's not going to put us at a disadvantage because we cannot harm business, we've got to make sure that they have a level playing field. So that's how I answer that question.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, get ready. We got 2 questions left. Next, would you approve a self-defense bill guaranteeing the right to carry on all college campuses?
Listen, I'm extremely pro-life. And I wanted to fill this one form out so bad that the NRA or somebody send me a form. But under principle, I refuse to check those boxes and say exactly what I'm going to do. So I don't know whether I'm going to approve anything for, guns to be carried at state campuses or in government buildings or all that. I believe that the best defense for a bad guy with a gun is having a good guy with a gun. All right? I believe that. And I have my concealed carry. But I'm not going to be put into a box of saying that I'm going to pass something. I have no idea what Oklahoma is going to be facing in the future. And I'm just not going to answer it. I don't know.
So we can have good guys with guns, but not for certain whether we should put them on college campuses.
If that's the way you interpret my answer, go for it.
All right. Well, that seems straightforward. I'm just making sure you were right on what you said there. Okay, last question. This is about economic development. There are a lot of different strategies and tools that the government uses to try and bring industry to Oklahoma. So I have a list of some of these here, and the question is, which ones do you approve of and which ones do you not like? So which ones would you approve, which ones would you veto, which ones would you expand or contract? So, for example, subsidies to industry. Do you want to expand or contract those?
Okay.
Actually, you've got them in front of you. You can just go through, while you're thinking, hey, for the audience, he's going to go through subsidies to industry, tax incremental financing, corporate tax credits, state-provided commercial real estate, regulations, licensing. We've got rural opportunity zones. We have tourism improvement districts, public-private business partnerships, taxes, and then specifically we have the Oklahoma Quality Jobs Act, and I definitely want to know if you want to expand that or contract that. So you just go through those real quick.
All right. So economic development is a huge deal. I'm the only guy in this race that started with $1,000 in a computer and has grown 1,100 jobs. I know how to talk to CEOs. I know how to get our state growing again. I'm a conservative because I've lived the American dream. I'm a conservative because I understand that regulation hampers things down and keeps free enterprise from starting, right? Actually, democratic policies are better for me personally. Because after you have your company and you're already established, then I just need more barriers to entry. Hey, keep more people from jumping into my game, right? And that would be actually better for me, but that's bad for the middle class. That's bad for economic development. That's bad for entrepreneurship. So I understand that those type of red tape and government regulations hamper us down. And I will, day one in office, everybody's going to know that Oklahoma is open for business as your next governor. So as far as specifics on what incentives, I'm not going to answer any of those questions. I believe that we need a governor's closing fund. Texas has a governor's closing fund. I met with the economic developers out of Pryor, Oklahoma, the industrial park out there. They said, Kevin, we can kill it on economic development if I had a little help from a governor's closing fund. So I love that idea, and I want to try to get that because we have these jobs incentive programs at the career techs where they say, if you come, we'll kind of train your sales force. I think we can remove that dollars over to kind of on the front end. If you were moving your company here and you were looking at $5 million in moving cost and opening a new plant, you would rather have those dollars up front versus than, hey, if you come, we'll train your people. So I think we can just kind of shuffle around where it is. There's nobody in the race that knows how to talk to CEOs and recruit businesses better than I do. And as your governor, that's what I'll do.
All right, so if the folks in Pryor want to expand the Oklahoma Quality Jobs Act for new hog farms, would you approve that?
Quality Jobs Act for hog farms.
Yeah, we expanded it recently for chicken farming, and then I want to know if we should expand it into hog farming.
You know, I think you need to, you've got to make sure that you don't have these industries pitch their book at you. So I want to make sure that any kind of incentive is the right thing for all 4 million Oklahomans. So I can't speak specifically. There's some manufacturers that rely on it. I think there's certainly some incentives that need to go away. Whether I would improve it for the hog deal, I don't know. Question hasn't hit me yet. I haven't.
You would just want to make sure it's fair,
done
fairly.
I want to make sure it's done fairly.
Hey, Kevin, Clay Bullard here. I appreciate your stance on pro-life and everything that you stand for on that, so thanks for explaining that. Can you flesh out a little bit more? You talked about the administrative costs within the education system, how you might address that to reduce that, consolidate, whatever your plan is for that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Steve Largent came to visit me in my office, and he said, Kevin, I ran for governor 15 years ago, and we're talking about the same issues today as we did back then. That's my whole point. We haven't done anything about it. And the career politicians, the people that are always thinking about their next election, will never do anything that affects them getting reelected against this industry or this industry. So I've done a lot of thinking about this. And the funding formula is where you need to attack it. The governor controls the purse strings, can veto, can line item veto. We need to change the funding formula. So we have something like 513 different superintendents in our state and assistant superintendents. Okay, 513 different districts. By comparison, Florida has 75 different superintendents. There's 7 times our population. And I look at a metric, some districts are very efficient. They spend $6 per kid in administration cost. Some spend as much as $900 per student in administration cost. It's that varied. So to me, you need to fix the funding formula, and then it goes back to the local control, and you say, hey, here's what other states are doing. Here's what the top 10 states in education are doing, and we need to fund this amount in administration costs, and then it goes back to the local control to determine how they're going to do it. So I think that's how you focus first on the administration, and you let the local control decide it, but you demand the outcomes. There's video technology. I was at the AP government class at Altus, Oklahoma, and other school districts don't even have any AP classes. So we need video technology. We need to be able to broadcast to the rural areas and demand higher outcomes, right? It also is very frustrating for me. 40% of our high school kids that are entering college have to be remediated. They're not ready, in other words, to take the college algebra and college classes. And here they are being patted on the back for the last 12 years saying they're making straight A's, but they're not ready for college. We've got to change that.
Thank you for coming to speak to us today.
Yes,
and you communicate really well. And you're obviously a great businessman. You've created a lot of jobs, but you've avoided the Oklahoma Conservative PAC holds people accountable to doing what they say they're going to do. And so you've effectively not answered any questions. So basically, we have no idea how you're going to vote on these things going into it other than to trust you. And we've heard trust you too many times in the past. So how do we know where you're going to go and what your policy is on these things? Because we don't know you well enough yet.
Yeah, I mean,
was there a question in there besides, can we trust you?
How do I know that you're going to do what's right for Oklahoma other than you've said you're going to, because you haven't told us how you're going to? Because you haven't answered our questions.
Yeah.
I mean, we've asked
just re-ask one of them.
Are you going to give incentives to businesses?
What incentives? I mean, I feel like I've been very transparent. I've told you what I've done.
I think he said if it was fairly done.
Yeah.
So he did say that.
I mean, here's the deal, guys.
And the closing fund, the governor's closing fund.
Governor closing fund, yeah.
Yeah. We'll just go to the next question. It's all right. Here, we'll do this.
Okay. My name is Jerome, Kevin, and I'd like to ask you a question. Do you feel like that what this guy Gary Richardson is talking about abolishing the Turnpike Authority, do you agree to that? Is that a form of fascism? Do you agree to that, abolishing it? What is your stand on that?
Yeah, great question. I don't think it's practical to abolish the turnpikes. I think we need to forensically audit. We need to make sure that money, I'm all about transparency. We've got to know where those dollars go. It's frustrating for me that we have the amount of turnpikes that we do. We've got to fund the 8-year plan and the Department of Transportation and look at the metrics and make sure they have 2,500 employees. The way my mind goes is let's make sure that every dollar that we're getting is appropriated correctly, that it's spent wisely. We've got the best roads and bridges. And so, turnpikes are, they're being built all over the country right now, and it's a user fee. But for him to say that he can abolish it day one, he would have to come up with $800 million, retire bonds. There's debt involved with all of that. And I just don't think that's practical. Now, I want to know that where every dollar goes and make sure it's funded correctly, and we use those funds all over the state because it's really all the taxpayers' dollars. So I don't like it just being held in one trust and not being able to be used all over the state.
Hi, my name is Paul. You mentioned you wanted to be fair. So if a business wanted to come in here, say something like Costco, and you offered them 5 years break on their tax in some way, would you then offer that same break to all the other businesses that are in the state? Because that would be fair.
Yeah. So a perfect example, I was over Muskogee. I think this will answer your question. I was over in Muskogee. I was talking economic development with the Port of Muskogee. All right, huge asset that our state has. They had a German auto company that wanted to move in there and was going to employ 200 people. They were going to spend $200 million on a facility, and it was between our site and a site in Kentucky. All right, so we lost it. We gave them 5 years property tax abatement, which is a state law. Kentucky offered 15 years, so we lost it to Kentucky. All right, so raw land property taxes, everybody knows that's about, let's call it $5,000 a year. So for $50,000, we gave up on that opportunity. Where if we would have given 15 years property tax abatement, then they would have invested $200 million. Yes, the property taxes go up to $200 million or $200,000 a year, but it was an opportunity loss cost. So to me, that is a make sense incentive. It is timely. It has a finite time limit on it. It doesn't really cost. It's just you're just giving up a very small portion, but you're giving up something that's not there. Could we go through and make sure that and to give that to every other manufacturer that's already here? No. After they're here, you can't do that. But what you can do is make sure we interpret the laws correctly. If you look right now, we have so many different county assessors that aren't even assessing property correctly. If we would simply assess the property correctly all over the state, you're talking about billions in revenue. So to me, we need to enforce the laws that are already there. But the way the county assessors get elected is just, hey, Johnny, gotcha. And then that's the way they do it. So you've got to make sure that we are assessing it all correctly. So that's the way I do it. You can't do that for everybody, but we have to compete with other states. If other states are doing these, we need to do it as well. But we've got to be smart. That's why you need a business person. I've been doing deals my whole life, and I will make sure we have the right deals for Oklahoma, not for that industry.
Hey, Kevin, you've always been my favorite Stitt and the favorite cousin, but You know I'm a small business owner, or used to be in Oklahoma, and I'm not right now, but I've dealt with tons of Oklahoma departments, Labor Department, the bridge guy, sat across the desk from him, OSHA, EPA, their heads here, tons of stuff. We always knew if we could get in with the state, we could get 75, 80, maybe 150% more for our product. Do you, and I'm going to use President Trump's words, do you realize this is a swamp? How do you drain it?
Yeah.
We feel your pain. You don't have to answer the question.
It is. And I tell people, we can all get cynical. And trust me, I've been in the private sector just like you, and I've been raising my family, growing my business, and I've thought, I'm going to let those clowns at 23rd and Lincoln do their deal. I'm not even getting involved. I'm going to keep running my business. But here's the truth. The future doesn't just happen. We make our own future. We're either going to choose to make a different future in our state, we're going to choose to be a top 10 state, or we're going to choose to be more of the same. But you've got to have an independent governor, a guy that's thinking about breaking down those different silos and isn't always pitching their book and isn't looking for their next job or their next appointment or their next placement. And, you've got Governor Henry that now is a consultant for the tribes. and he negotiated the last compact. You just have dirty pool all the way around that's happening.
I'm Stephanie, and it appears that you would be a very good business leader. You've proven yourself as far as your experience. But in true leadership, and you say you're a man of faith, I don't understand how your faith didn't allow you to answer a question earlier. Because you did answer a question, you said clearly you would abolish, or you said no, you would not abolish the turnpike day one. You answered that. How about abolishing the murder of babies every day here in Oklahoma? How about that?
Well, he answered that one too. He said it was a federal issue.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It would be, would you, if you had the bill that we had on the governor's desk, 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago now? She could have abolished abortion here in Oklahoma. Would you do that? And you wouldn't answer the question. Here's a second.
Let him answer that one first.
Well, the bill that was on her desk, I would have signed. But that didn't do what you're talking about or what he asked me. It said, would it criminalize it or something like that?
The bill
which is a
live
federal
right
issue
now is a criminalization bill.
Yeah.
That was a licensing bill.
Hi, we're glad you're here. My name's Steve Kern. My wife was a state representative for 12 years. And the first question she always asked when they first had the caucuses, getting ready for the next session, what are we going to do to cut spending? If we're ever going to cut taxes, we've got to cut spending. Well, nobody ever wanted to answer that question. There was about 5 or 6 that always asked that question. You said that you would be meeting with these people. What would be the first suggestion that you would make where they could start cutting so that they could start actually cut taxes and not have to worry about taxing more cigarettes?
Yeah. So the way you lead and the way you interpret information, it takes a long time to learn, and you have to put metrics and performances in place for your different departments. Okay, so the legislature is very easy to pick on. I mean, everybody picks on them, and I get it, but they've got a tough job. If you think about it, let's pretend like we're all newly elected state members. Okay, and all these different 120 agencies line up in front of our office, and they start saying, I need 50 more million, I need 100 million, I need 700 million. The Department of Corrections says I need $1 billion more. How do you know if they really need it, or where do you start to cut is your question. So I have to break everything down to a metric, and I put a performance in every single department. That would do the same thing at the state level. Okay. So, for example, if you're running IT for me, are you good at technology? Yeah. We'll pretend like you are, but if you're head of technology, and you come to me and say, Kevin, we got to hire 10 new people next year, and we've got to upgrade 400 computers, and we've got to buy this software and this software. It gets so confusing. I get spun in a circle. It would take me 2 weeks to dig into our IT world. We have 43 employees in technology today. I'd be asking you questions like, let me look at the job descriptions. Are you telling me some of those 10 can't do those 43 jobs? Let me look at the list of computers we've got to upgrade. You're telling me 400 computers are going to break next year? We can't get another year out of them? Any normal person would be challenging you, right? So, we underwrite. If you run underwriting for me, we underwrite about 3,000 home loans a month. So I take our underwriting cost center, divide it by 3,000, come up with a number. For us, that's $267. So that's what it costs for that cost center to run that department. So you can hire as many underwriters as you want this year. But remember, next February, if we're closing 4,000 home loans, of course he can hire more. But if we're only closing 2,000, what's he got to do? He's got to shrink, right? Because he's always got to be focused on his metric. Why is that so important? Because when I look across the 120 different agencies of state government, some have 500 employees, some of them have 1,000, some of them have 2,500. And I ask myself, what is the metric that they're delivering? What is the purpose that they're doing for the citizens? What do other states do with their same departments? And you start there, and with technology, you know that you can do it more efficient. So that's how you start the process of cutting and reducing those staffs, because you're showing people what they used to do it for and what other states are doing it. We have other states, guys, that have a single sign-on where you can buy your property, you can pay your property taxes, get your car tag renewed, buy your fishing license. I want to bring state government to the 21st century. We cannot keep doing the same things we've done since 1907 or what made sense in 1950 and expect different results. So that's how you start the process of cutting. You can't just go in because everybody's just going to be complaining and saying that they need more, right? That's just the way it works.
Hi, my name's Chris. I had a question. First, I want to thank you for trying to make it where we're competitive with Texas and our border states, so my fellow peers don't jump ship and I have to go see them in Dallas so much. My question for you is, who did you vote for in the presidential primaries and why?
I think I was working during the primaries, but in the general, I voted for Trump. What about you?
All right, here comes the final. Mike, did you have a question?
Did you?
Okay, 2 more questions and we're out of here.
I'm a little slow, so simple here. Was your problem with the criminalization of the abortion? Should it be criminal? Yes or no? Should it be criminal to murder the unborn?
Yes, it should be.
All right, last question. Federal criminal or state criminal?
What's the difference?
Well, there's 2 jurisdictions.
Okay.
Where's the jurisdiction? I think that's what we want to know.
Well, I had a couple of questions. I think you've already answered one. I'll just repeat it, I think. But
if he's answered it, don't repeat it, dude.
All right. You said something when you were discussing educational choice about income levels, and that, for me, is confusing because I think theft is theft, whether you're rich or poor. And I think education is my business, not your business. So educational choice should you be equal whether you're poor or rich. I should be able to take whatever tax dollars I pay and use that to educate my children in whatever way I think they should be. So I'm curious, do you agree with that, or do you think educational choice is only for the poor?
No, I think it's for. I think you can choose anywhere you want to go. The problem is
you mentioned vouchers. Should everyone get a voucher or just qualify for it?
There's no. Should you? Yes. There's no way to get it done.
Yeah, you said vouchers were for the poor only.
No, I don't think I said that. I said Indiana did a 5 times the poverty level to get the vouchers passed, because that's how they got it done in their state. So the point is, it's been a lot of years we've talked about vouchers. The only way to get that done is to have some kind of cap, because the problem is nobody would vote for that because they think the rich guys that already send their kids to private schools are going to get a voucher. You can't get that done. So if I can get 80% what I want to get done, I'm going to move the needle, and we're going to start moving towards those directions. I just don't think we can do it the way you're proposing. Is it fair to do it that way? Probably, but I just don't think it's practical.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's 1 o'clock. He did well surviving the hot seat. Please give it up. All right, Pastor Kern, if you could be making your way forward. I want to thank you all for participating today. Again, same time, same channel next week. Catherine Connolly will be our guest speaker. And if you would all take a deep breath and be quiet for just a minute, we will close in prayer.
Let's take this time to pray. Father, we come in the name of Jesus, and we thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to be here today. Lord, to be introduced to another one of our candidates. We thank you for candidate Stitt, and we pray, Father, your blessings on him. We just pray, Lord, blessings on Oklahoma. Lord, help us to learn who the candidates are and to be able to vote, Lord, according to our convictions and the principles of our hearts. Lord, I thank you for this organization that makes it possible for us to be more informed. Lord, we pray for our nation. We pray, Lord, that you will bring revival and awakening and a return, Lord, to our founding principles. And so, Lord, we commit this time to you. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.